Welcome to the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast, a space where the root of bio-individual energetics is exposed and glowing from the inside out becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Lindsey Walker, former IT software developer turned multidimensional healer and founder of Soul Fam Wellness. This podcast is for healers, light workers, new earth leaders, and conscious women, aka awakened luminaries, who are lighting your own path forward, allergic to band-aid fixes, and respect the deep inner work. Every week, I bring you raw and honest conversations to activate your unique soul codes, supporting your grounded ascension. This is where multidimensional healing becomes a roadmap back to your soul. Because let's be real, living your entire life on a constant healing journey was never the goal anyways. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast. If you're watching this on video and you're wondering why I look so tired, it's because I am really tired. It's very late at night when I'm recording this right now, but lucky for you, the episode is a guest episode that I am just introing in for today. So you don't have to listen to Tired Lindsey for very long. But also, if you are feeling a little wonky and not feeling like all rainbows and butterflies, it's okay. Me too. So this is me showing up in like the most real, vulnerable way I could possibly show up. No makeup because I have like these little dry eye patches. If you've been seeing some of my Instagram stories right now, I've shared a little bit about this, but I'm on my own protocol where I'm focusing on the brain, and there is a very tight connection to the brain and the liver, and I can tell my liver is very overwhelmed. I'm also in the middle of my cycle. So anyways, I have these dry eye patches like above my eyelids, and I was like, I don't want to put on makeup. Like that doesn't sound fun to me for a multitude of reasons. But also I was like, I'm committing to myself and I'm committing to my guest to show up for her, to intro her in, and to just share a little bit before we dive into this episode. But thank God this episode has already been recorded and you get to see me and her in a very different energy. And also at the same time, I'm not perfect every day. I don't feel beautiful and glamorous and perfect and lovely every single moment of every single day. In fact, I literally was sitting on my floor like a child playing my singing bowls for the last half hour or so just to kind of like work out this sticky feeling. I didn't even want to get on a microphone. I was like, there's nothing good that could come out of my mouth right now, so let's not. So now that I have been immersed in singing bowls for the past half hour, I'm like, okay, I feel like my cells are in coherence now. We can like show up like an adult and speak. So I just want to know, I want you to know that if you're going through it in whatever that means for you, you're not alone and it's okay. And because I didn't really explain these like eye thingies, anyways, if there's anything that is coming out on the skin, it is most likely related to the fact that your insides are maybe having a little hard time getting things out. And specifically, the liver is like almost always the culprit for overwhelm when there is anything related to skin issues, rashes, tags, all the things. So that's what's going on. And it's okay. I'm not freaking out. I'm not going to like run to get, I don't know, creams or something. Like I'm being gentle with myself. I'm just taking it easy. I'm really focusing on liver support and I'm really making sure that the energy is moving. And yes, I even did microdose today and tapped into the energy of surrender. I used the surrender blend and then I got super triggered. So also, I've talked about microdosing mushrooms on here before, and oftentimes I'll reference the very blissful energy that they can bring. And that's one aspect of them. But when you're working with them consciously, sometimes they can trigger the fuck out of you and you feel super irritated all day and you just have to be in your irritation. And there's no problem. There's nothing wrong. It's just that's the energy that's here today. So I have one more announcement for you. I want to let you know that I do have 2 spots open for Ascend private multidimensional mentorship. So if you have been wanting to work with me one-on-one in a private sacred container, this is your opportunity. You can choose either 3, 6, or 12-month commitment. And this is custom created for light workers, healers, conscious women like you who don't want and don't need hand holding, but you're here to expand into your next level while taking your body with you. We utilize the grounded ascension method, which is my method to heal the body, but also ascend and connect with your higher self. You'll experience this really intentionality of anchoring deeper into your meat suit, my favorite, but also rising higher into your mission and calling with a strong internal foundation, because you can't rise higher without grounding deeper. We have to take the body with us. You have to really anchor into the body, clear the distortions from your field to be able to call in higher light and really bring forth your mission in the clearest form possible. So, if this is something of interest to you, if you've been wanting to work with me, if you have been wanting to really dive deeper into this multidimensional healing work where we go through physical, emotional, energetic, spiritual, every aspect, layer, and component of your health, your life, and really who you are here to be on a human and also spiritual level, send me a DM if you would like to apply, or if you have any more questions, want more details. And let's see if this space is for you. It is a very sacred container, so I want to make sure your yes is a holy hell yes, and that our work together is really special. And so I want to make sure that you are feeling super great before committing. So if that is something of interest to you right now, as I'm recording this, there's 2 spots open. So I only take a small amount at one time. And this is a one-on-one space. So DM me to see if there are still spots available if you're hearing this and you are interested. So that is the announcement for today. And now let me introduce you to our incredible guest for this episode. Today we have on Hannah Elrose. She is a mystic, vocalist, and conscious cannabis guide. Formerly a cruise ship performer and NFL cheerleader, Hannah spent a decade suffering from debilitating eating disorder, experiencing the depths of self-abandonment, extreme disembodiment, and loss of self-belief. Through methods like her signature SoulDisco, Hannah now uses her embodied wisdom to guide others home to themselves. Emphasizing nervous system resilience, safety in the body, and self-trust repair, Hannah helps lightworkers create coherence between their human identity and their soul's calling. Hannah currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina with her husband and the Schmo Morning Show co-host, Joey. And yes, their Schmo Morning Show is on Instagram every weekday morning. If you want to catch that, they're an incredible, super fun couple to watch. But Hannah is our guest today, and I say a few things at the beginning of the episode recording, so I'll leave most of it for that. I already said it, but Hannah is a super special guest for me because we met just over a year ago. It was in someone else's space, and then she became a client of mine, and we worked together throughout the past year. And the most special part is someone like that entering through my world as a client, but really turning into a colleague and a friend. And that has been really the story with me and Hannah. And it has been my greatest joy to watch her just flourish and explore her own gifts, the messages that she is meant to bring to this world, the SoulDisco that she's created. And I actually got to experience it the night before we recorded this podcast episode. So Hannah is a true gift, and I actually purposefully invited her on to talk about her relationship with cannabis in a conscious way. And I tell the story about why I invited her on, so I'll leave that for you to hear in the episode. But whether you are someone that is already a conscious cannabis user, you're just super curious about this conversation, or you're the biggest skeptic of life, I highly recommend you stick around, because the way that this episode and this conversation is guided, there's something here for everyone. And what I loved about Hannah is that she's so embodied in her work. There's a reason why she is the person that was chosen for this message, for this mission. And even though it maybe hasn't been the smoothest journey for her, and of course she gets, a lot of pushback because of the nature of her work, she's doing an incredible job bringing this mission, bringing this message forward. And I couldn't have thought of a better person to have this conversation with. So yes, this is very much about conscious cannabis, but we also go into her story from a much deeper level as well, and just everything that she has done to get to where she's at today, which is a it is such a 180 difference from when I met her, but the essence of Hannah has always been there. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Enjoy this episode with Hannah. I cannot wait for you to meet her and get to know her so much better, and for you to really hear her message, her story, and her mission. Without further ado, enjoy the episode. All right, so Hannah, I contacted you with a very specific reason as to why I wanted to have you on the show. Let me just say, you are such a powerful woman in yourself and your own energy. But I noticed that there was something that you were talking about that I started to experience on my own. So, to give a little bit of backstory, I was at a Christmas party back in December, and I had these little THC drinks with me, which like I've had like maybe 4 in my life. But for whatever reason, I just decided to bring them with me because I don't really drink alcohol. And my husband just thought it was like so fun that I had these with me. So he was like wanting me to share with other people. And I was sharing with certain people, and I was getting the most extreme responses from each individual. It was either judgment central and couldn't believe that I thought this was something that was edible or drinkable or should be shared, or I was basically given the opinion that, oh, you're a total stoner and wow, you must smoke weed all the time. And I was like, wow, this is such an interesting experience, and neither one is true. And I know that you are so connected with the cannabis plant in a very ceremonial way. And from what I have seen from you, I just knew that you were the person to bring on to have this conversation. So, Hannah, I'm really, really excited to have you on to talk about this. But one, I would love to know how cannabis entered your life. Let's start there.
It's a great question. Lindsey, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to talk about this. Cannabis actually entered my life in college, not in the way that I use it now, but I think it's very interesting to look at how life plants the seeds to ensure you have everything you need for what's coming up. So I was introduced to it in college in a very unconscious way, which is fine. But it was after I recovered from my eating disorder, which I suffered from for 10 years. I went to residential in 2020, and it was after I was well into recovery that I started to introduce it again. No longer as an escaping or a coping sort of mechanism, but really as a tool to bring me into my body. I had spent so long outside of my body. And I actually think when I started reintroducing it, it wasn't quite as intentional as it is now. But what I came to realize, there's this very specific moment. I was in rehearsal for a cruise ship. That's what I did primarily professionally up until very recently. I was in rehearsals with my husband. We had the night off. We took an edible. And I had this very clear moment of realizing that I could hear myself within me for the first time ever. I have been very out of touch with my insides, honestly, like dissociated from my body for so long. And I realized at this moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I think all of me is right here, right now. This is wild. I'm so grateful for this. This is something that like feels very special. And so from that day on, I started using it intentionally. I would incorporate either yoga. At the time, I wasn't quite into breath work yet, or really meditation, but I knew that the presence I was accessing was really remarkable. And what I now understand is like presence is it. That's what we're all aiming for. And so I think this plant is so helpful, not for everyone, but for the people it resonates with, to get them back into their body and to practice potentially for the first time what presence even feels like. That's really what it felt like to me. I was like, oh, I've never felt this way in my life. I think we're all supposed to feel this way. Okay, it's okay if I need this tool. And I've gone through a whole journey of like, am I addicted to this? Do I need it? And then I take breaks. And like, it's a whole journey developing your conscious relationship. That's what I call it now. It's conscious cannabis. But it's been a journey. And I am now so passionate about helping the right people find this medicine.
I got so many chills when you were talking. So just so much validation for what you're saying, not for you, but just for like the listeners to understand what I really wanted to highlight that you said is that it's a tool that you really feel called to use because there's so many tools that people can use or be called to use. But look at the stigma that society has on cannabis or on mushrooms or even
Hmm.
on supplements, because those are tools I use as well. And there are still people saying that it's just making, you have expensive pee if you use supplements. I mean, there's such a spectrum. I've heard it all.
Hmm.
And so it's so interesting when, you know, but to your point, when you said that were introduced to it in a unconscious way, it is not just, oh, this tool is good or bad. It's how are you using it really changes it. But you said something really powerful that we're all trying to find presence. And when you said that this really allowed you to be in your body, to feel your body, and to be in presence, that's huge. That's incredible. But how did you make your way from the unconscious use to more of the conscious use?
So when I reintroduced it, I think it was more for like, I just want to feel good, right? Because I also was renegotiating my relationship with alcohol. After my eating disorder was done, I kind of picked up alcohol a little bit more because it's just so much. You're like, I don't even know what to do with myself. How does one feel anything? So it was when I started to feel this presence, I realized that this tool was helping me. I would start to like do breath work or I started to meditate and I would start to feel these sensations in my body for the first time. And it was actually this teacher who became my teacher. I took his 6-month coaching program, coaching with cannabis program last year. He was the first person to introduce me to the term conscious cannabis. And I was like, that's what I've been doing. I didn't even know that's what I was doing, but that's it. So I dove straight into his work. We did like an 8-week breath work with cannabis program, and then I did his 6-month program. And exactly what you said, it's all about intention. Like we know how powerful intention is, and if you give a powerful plant being, just like with mushrooms, it will amplify exactly what you're saying and it will get to work. And it also knows better than you at the same time. So, um, yeah, I would say that was it. Working with his name is Ryan Sprague, and he's kind of like a front runner in the cannabis for spiritual healing scene. And that was really my introduction. And then this whole past year really has been learning for myself how to not be dependent on it. Um, because it feels so good to be present when you're not used to being present. And actually, what I learned from you, Lindsey, is this idea of the problem frequency, which is my nervous system was still wired for the panic, urgency, hypervigilance, hiding, shame of 10 years of my life. Like, really extreme nervous system state that was very hard for me to get out of. So when I could drop into presence with this medicine, I was like, I don't ever want to not be in this, right? Like it was such a stark difference. But what I found is with the more intentional use, the oscillations have gotten smaller and smaller. And so now I'm finding more stabilization, and I even can find those altered states of consciousness without the cannabis. And that's the point, is like she's showing us what's possible, showing us what we will be able to access on our own. And in the meantime, if you need her support, that's why she's here. And that's why she's a plant and she's like ever growing, right? If these people weren't trying to keep the information from us, we would all be utilizing it. And what I learned from Ryan, my teacher, I didn't know this. Like I was a DARE student. I don't know if you had that in your school, right? We were
Yeah.
trained to think drugs are bad. I'm saying that in quotes for the listeners. Drugs are bad.
Hmm. Hmm.
We had been communing with hemp, the plant, forever and ever and ever and ever. We have an endocannabinoid system. This plant works with us. We've been using it for textiles, all these things in our medicine up until I believe it was like the 1940s. Hemp was a part of our medicine. And then they created this whole narrative because they don't want the people to know how powerful you are, which is what this plant is teaching you. And so they created an entire narrative. They changed the name. They created the name of marijuana. They blamed it on it's quite a vulgar like narrative that they created about Mexican men coming to the United States and doing bad things specifically to women. And so they attached this storyline to the name marijuana, and then like overnight the laws came out. And also that is benefiting the pharmaceutical companies because they want to make the money, right? Like it's so intertwined and crazy. But the whole reason there is a stigma is because we were taught it and it isn't true. And that's what's crazy is like people are just, I mean, and everything that's happening in the world right now, people are given an opportunity to start to question what they've been taught. So I believe I am here to help people understand that they have been taught a lie about this plant.
Yeah. Join the club. We're all exposing some serious lies, and it usually has something to do with the government or some systems. So,
and money.
Oh yeah, and money, the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Yep. So, okay, yeah, you're over here working on this version. I'm over here working on this version. That's a wild story. I actually had never heard that story about how they changed it into marijuana and put that story on it, but that doesn't surprise me in any form of the word, because they did that to mushrooms too, and they do that to all kinds of, they do that to herbs, like other herbs.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's just wow, thank you so much to the systems that we're all demolishing this year. It's fine. But you said something about you had a really powerful year with it this year. And I want to just say that, so I met you about a year ago, and I don't want to say that you were a different person, but there's just like a new essence of Hannah. And I'm just so excited for the version of you that's sitting on the other side of the screen from me, because, and I told you this before we started recording, that from the outside, I'm like, damn, woman, you are like superwoman. And you're like, I don't really see my past year that way. And none of us do. Like, whenever someone reflects back to us how they see us in the external or what we're showing to the outside world, you're like, they really don't know the whole story. And that's okay. Like, not everyone needs to know the nitty gritty of like every single moment of our lives. But I just want to say that the work and the dedication that you've been doing with yourself is so noticeable, to the point where, I mean, I'm like giddy and excited for you. And it's so exciting that, this plant has really found you and you have leaned into it. And I'll probably say this in the intro, but I will say, like, cannabis is not my personal like plant of choice. Like it's just not. And I don't have any negative feelings towards it. My body is just not in coherence with it. But that's still why I wanted to have you on, to show that I don't have to, use this particular plant medicine to really show people the full spectrum of tools that you can use for your healing.
Totally. Well, and even if it gives like you some more information, like if you're sipping a THC drink, they're at all, I mean, I don't know about where you're at, but in most of our breweries now, there's always a THC option. Like, it is definitely making waves.
Definitely not here.
Oh, it's so cool. And there's lounges opening up. Like, it's really epic. I'm obsessed with it.
Nice.
But I think, just for someone to just be able to have like a 5 milligram THC drink and not feel shame about it, because they actually know the truth, and that people are like, I'm going to drink, no shame to people who drink alcohol. I do occasionally, but like, we're okay with drinking poison, and we're mad at you because you're drinking a plant.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It really is. So how have you navigated the inevitable shame that has, because I just told you, I started out this podcast with telling you that like there was projection central from opposite sides of the spectrum. And so I can only imagine what you have dealt with as someone who is really out there stewarding this plant and stewarding the medicine of this plant.
Well, as I said, this past year thank you for your kind words. This year has forged me for sure. And the coming out of the shame of this plant has been a big part of that, and becoming more vocal. And it's been so incremental, and I have received so much projection from my family, so much shame, so much judgment. And that really held me back. Like, that really was keeping me stuck for a long time. And it was over Christmas, actually, that I kind of had a breakdown to a breakthrough of realizing that it's like particularly just a couple people in my family whose opinions really were affecting me. And I was at that time with I took a tolerance break, and then I had a very powerful ceremony with cannabis. And I came out of that ceremony remembering that it doesn't matter what they think at all. This is my soul mission, literally God, which they all believe in, we all believe in. Maybe we all see it differently, but this is my soul's calling. And so I have to, and I'm given the opportunity to grow through the discomfort of being judged and being misunderstood. And this is something I've spoken about before, is I was never the black sheep in my family. I was the good girl. I was straight A. I looked nice. The whole time I have a horrendous eating disorder that nobody knows about, obviously, but they'll compliment me on how I look, that sort of thing. So once this started to come out, I started to be a little more vocal on it on Instagram. Yeah, I had to deal with the judgment, and it was a fire. It was like a fire rebirth sort of situation. And I will say, since I have kind of, what I did? I protected myself, and I started blocking my own family, because I was like, if I am meant to be authentic on the internet, which I think we know personal branding and the social media is, I think, the way of the future. Like, I think we are meant to build this brand. We're meant to self-actualize on the internet. We are meant to attract our tribe. Ever since I've been posting more authentically, I mean, just yesterday, I got like 12 new followers, and that does not happen to me. But it was this one specific video that was so in the moment, and I was smoking in it. And so the people that needed to see that resonated so much. And that's what I'm trying to remember, is that, like, I am not for everyone, but I am for those people that need to hear what I have to say, which is that, like, you're doing good. Follow your instincts, and then if you want some support using it more consciously, then we can work together, and I would love to help you.
Wow. It is that. And it is that breaking through the vulnerability barrier, like putting yourself out online. It almost feels like you can hide in a way, but then at some point you realize, oh, this is real and people are seeing it. I think when you start to get comments back from other people that and you're like, oh, you saw that. It's not just like something random I stuck on the internet. At least that was how I felt a little bit. And so I totally hear you on that. You mentioned that this is your soul's calling, and that's why you're so gung-ho about this. Was there a moment that you had that really anchored this into your body as your soul's calling? Or what was it for you that you realized? Because you've obviously had a lot of pushback. So how did you know this is it?
The original, let's call it vision, the original knowing happened on my honeymoon, 2024. My husband and I ended our honeymoon in Amsterdam. First place we go is a coffee shop. So this is the first time I've ever been anywhere that's public. You can buy cannabis, you can smoke it. And I fell in love. I just immediately knew, like, everyone needs a safe place to do this, because it's medicine, it's magical, and we don't need to be like hiding in our backyard so nobody sees us. So I fell in love with it. We had a very strong pre-roll together, and like creativity kind of opened up for me at that moment. And I saw the vision of sacred flower vibes, which is kind of what like my business is called as of right now. I'm in the business building phase, and that name was very clear to me. And I know that I want to actually have like a brick and mortar in-person place that's like a cannabis lounge, which we have here, but there's nowhere that has like space to then do something with it. Like, we're just smoking and then playing cards or something at the places here, which is awesome. The fact that I came back from Amsterdam and I discovered that people were opening places like this, I genuinely thought, oh, I manifested this. Like, this never would have happened in Charlotte before, Anyways, it was so fascinating. So that was what, 2 years ago or so? And here's what's happened to me a lot. I will get when I'm in the vibe, aka when I'm high and I'm connected to my higher self and I'm connected to this wider picture, I would get such clear information on moves I could make. But I did not trust myself enough. And if
Mm.
I, say it wears off, I felt it really hard to connect with that version of myself. So this oscillation between higher self, knowing this is my soul calling, and then human Hannah, who is still navigating a lot of junk in her body, a lot of things that need to be alchemized and resolved, and it's a little slower sometimes than I wish it was. Um,
Don't we all?
yeah, it's been a process for sure, but it just kept coming back and I resisted it so much, especially this past year. In the fall, I entered a business school. It was a feminine frequency business school. It was amazing because it was very much soul led, like you're here for a reason. Here's all the tools. And so I knew I was meant to build it around this sacred flower vibes theme. And yet, for the whole 3-month program, every assignment felt like climbing uphill because I knew it's what I was supposed to do, but I really didn't want to do it. And I think at that time it's also because I was such in hiding. Like I
Mhm.
still had all of these, let's call them cords of my parents, my family, all these opinions about me that were keeping me from moving. Um, but it's always comes back to it. And even with the SoulDisco, which I love so much, and you don't necessarily have to connect with cannabis, it keeps coming back to that. It keeps coming back to helping people understand that this tool can help them come into the present moment. And then from there, like specifically, people who have been incredibly disembodied, people with eating disorders, people with addictions, people who have been escaping themselves for a very long time. We can't just like blink and drop back in. And I think that's what frustrated me a lot about the spiritual space was everyone's talking about mindset and just change your thoughts and just I was like it is not that easy because it all comes to the body. And I've been learning a lot about fascia work and how everything is in the tissues anyways. So we need to get our awareness into the body to even begin doing the actual work that's going to change our lives. Like I was saying affirmations, and again I think it's destructive. I was saying affirmations as soon as I like entered this spiritual journey. And so then when they don't work because you don't realize there's these subconscious parts of you that don't believe it because your body is still kind of living in the past, you struggle to believe in any of it. And then that really halts, I think, your progress. But that also mirrors, and this is something I'm actively working on in my trust in the divine, is I'd suffered for 10 years from an eating disorder, always praying for healing. So if God doesn't heal me, what kind of faith am I going to have in the divine? So that's like
Mhm.
a relationship I'm actively repairing. And this past year has been um, really, I mean, I said this word earlier, excruciating in that regard. But that's why, like, then I would connect with cannabis and I would be like, oh, yes, phew. Okay, I remember. Great. So let's start moving.
Wow. So did you just connect with cannabis for, because you said you were like really oscillating from one side to another, but you really felt like this plant has been able to bring you back into your body. But on the times where you're not using cannabis and you are still kind of in this wonky energy, is that the only thing that you've used to come back to yourself, or has there been something else?
Mm. I've done, I mean, I found breath work and I really enjoy that as well. And then moving for me, like I'm a dancer, so when I started to go out into nature, which is my favorite, and then I would just like dance in nature or I would sit and breathe in nature, and I found that that was really supportive. At the same time, I think there was a part of me that I've really been trying to shed that's like I'm not capable of accessing presence without this medicine. So
Mhm.
that's been its own like journey of separating like that's not what's getting me there. It is a tool. So then like you said with other things, yeah, I think breath work is probably like the most visceral that I
Mm.
can point to. Um, oh, I know. Also singing. Singing has been
Mhm.
huge for me, and that's I didn't realize that when I sang, like that was God moving through me. That just wasn't a connection I made. But also, I have a very complicated relationship with my voice. I was bulimic for a long time and also really had like severe stage fright after a while. So reclaiming my voice and feeling like I was inside of myself as I was singing versus singing from the throat up and being performative, like that has been huge. And I have to tell you, cannabis changed the game for me. I started taking a gummy and then singing. And then I realized, oh, this is presence. This is flow. This is God. This is me doing what my soul likes to do. And that has really helped me do a lot of pattern interrupting with my stage fright. I've sung at a couple cannabis lounges, and that pairing has been monumental for that journey of reclaiming my voice.
So it seems like there's a lot of things that you're doing and have done, especially in the past year, that you said you were terrified of, or there was just a lot of resistance to. So if someone is listening and they are feeling a similar type of feeling, and there is, you're saying that there is this knowing on your heart to bring cannabis forward, to be this conscious cannabis steward, to build a business, which you're now doing, but obviously as you're talking, nothing is like just falling on your lap easy. So if someone's feeling this way, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, this is so silly and annoying, but I have a tattoo under my ribs. Um, that's actually in a mirror font so that I see it when I look in the mirror, and it says trust the journey. It's so
Mm,
silly, but I found myself getting very creating a lot of suffering for myself because if you start looking on the internet, other people are building spiritual businesses. Everyone has advice on what works for them. And a lot of suffering would have been removed if I would just trust that there are cycles to this, that the oscillations don't mean I'm doing anything wrong, that it's okay if I start making moves and then I kind of take a step back because the vulnerability has given a shock to my nervous system. I think really honoring the human that's going through this journey is so important because, yes, it is a soul calling, but my human's been through a lot of, I want to call it, I've been calling it feels like trauma to abandon yourself, right? Like if you have not
mm,
been yourself for a very long time, and also you have the energy of hypervigilance, urgency, fear coding your system, it takes a while to detox that from your body. So I actually learned from you. You said this, I don't remember when, but it was like when the energy is there, move. And that is what I have done. So if the energy is there and I'm inspired to create something, go create it. And if I feel dissociated from it tomorrow, fine. But I will come back maybe on my next menstrual cycle because that is something that's so interesting. It's like, oh, I already wrote this thing and it exists. And now I just have to make some tweaks and it's ready.
mm.
And if I would just trust that that is the process that my human is taking, then it would be a lot less suffering. So, trusting the journey, moving when you feel inspired, and then allowing the rest. And I think like I was following some spiritual people, and obviously they're great, they're business coaches, but they're like, just go, go, go. And who cares about like how you feel about it? Like, just tune into your higher self and move. But my sensitive nervous system can't do that, or that's not my path right now. My path is honoring slowness, patience, trust, because I never functioned like that my whole life. I never functioned at a pace like that. So it feels weird, but I know that I'm here to anchor the feminine frequency. I think a lot of us are here because we're trying to bring balance to this crazy world. The feminine frequency doesn't push in that way. Yes, there is determination and there's devotion, but honoring your current state of being, holding yourself like maybe you were never held before. I think that is really what we're aiming for. We're not like just trying to get to the business being built, where it like business building is a spiritual journey because it's like
Mhm.
how much can you love yourself through your growth edges, you know?
Oh, yeah. If anyone ever told me that entrepreneurship was actually going to be the biggest personal development journey I would embark on, I don't know if I would have started, but it's probably best that no one said anything because you're right. There is a big shift, and you're not the only one saying this right now. I think it's getting louder and louder about not just pushing and listening to your nervous system, listening to yourself, like, yes, growing to expand your capacity, but not to the point of burnout. Because if
Mm.
we as entrepreneurs are building to the point of burnout, what the heck is the difference between us and the systems that we're trying to rebuild and take down?
Oh, I've got a great story about that.
Please.
So, this is just like the perfection of divine timing. So I wanted to begin the SoulDisco. Actually, the download of the SoulDisco came on one of my coaching with cannabis courses. I was feeling really frustrated because I knew I didn't want to coach, and that's what we were learning is like how do you help
Mm,
people use the cannabis to kind of lighten your perspective so you can see things differently. But I was like, this doesn't hit for me. Um, but the idea of gathering online and like doing something together monthly, I knew that was it. So I tried to initiate it pretty quickly because I was like, the energy's here, let's move. And I tried to force something that was not ready to happen. I wasn't ready. Like, I should not have been facilitating or leading from a place of urgency. I need to get it right. I remember trying to make a PowerPoint the night before, and I was like, I'm not connected to any of this. I don't even know what to say. The next morning, the day of this SoulDisco, I don't even know if anyone was signed up. Maybe like 3 people were signed up. My laptop crashed completely.
no.
And my initial reaction was, thank God, I don't want to do this. It was so clear to me that that is not the energy I'm meant to bring the SoulDisco into the world with. And very beautifully, 4 days later, I was at a mushroom retreat, and some beautiful soul sister that I just met said, I want to buy you a new laptop. Your work is really important. And I got a brand new MacBook a week later. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, great. The MacBook I'm using right now was a gift.
That's wild.
So I knew, oh, I have to actually, and I've heard this, right? It's like it's not about what you do, it's how you're being as you do it.
Mm.
But still kind of detoxing that urgency, like, oh, I got to get it together because everyone else has their business. And for me, I have a lot of money scarcity things that I'm learning as well and shedding. There was a lot of urgency to get this out in the world so that I could start making money. But that's not the energy that this is meant to be brought forth with. So that was a very visceral learning opportunity for me.
Wow, that's wild. That story is absolutely crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
I will also say that I didn't have that exact experience, but I know what you're talking about when you try and force something forward and things just don't exactly go to plans. And then at some point you get stopped because I had a very similar experience with when I started my breathwork events and I was trying to do them exactly as my teacher told us to
Mm.
do them. And I was literally just copying his word for word or just like the exact same thing. I was like, okay, I know. Like I felt like I was like just channeling him instead of channeling myself. And actually, there was a storm that came through one night when I was supposed to do it and it knocked the internet out. And I was like, thank God, I don't
Thank
want to do this
God.
shit because I'm out of here. And
Yes.
after that, like I stopped them. But there's like such a potency to timing of like who you become because you even said it like, oh, I wasn't meant to facilitate it. And it's not that, because I've had people ask me before like, oh, are you ready for XYZ thing? And then it's like your ego can get involved. But sometimes there really is lessons in a journey and like how much you change and evolve. And it's like, when I did those breathwork experiences like 2 years ago, the people that were there were like ready to experience that version of me. And that was great. And that was fine. And now it's just like the people now that are experiencing what I do, like breathwork healing and all the other things, it's like they were not going to want 2 years ago me. So like the version of you that initially started that, like the people you're calling in now just didn't want that. They're like, we're waiting for the next version of Hannah. We're waiting for
Mm.
her to really expand herself. And it's funny that you say that. I feel like there's a common theme in like the universe. Because I will tell you, I'll tell you a vulnerable piece too that you kind of mentioned of like really bridging your trust back with the universe, because I'm in a similar state too of like really trusting that the universe has my back, because I
Mm.
think for a long time I have controlled a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a bunch of experiences this past week where, like, let me practice trust. I didn't do well at all of them. Some of them I controlled. I absolutely was like not star student here. But it was funny because as you bring up events, I was at the gym show and I was telling one of the vendors my whole spiel about I did these events, they didn't go well. Now I had to like let them go and now I'm going to bring them back in my own way. And he ended up gifting me something worth thousands.
Yes.
And it's like that confirmation, like with you with the laptop, of
Yep.
like once it there's an element of confirmation that you get when you step out of the way.
Amen. And that's how I feel like this past week with getting a lot more interaction on the internet. I know
Mhm.
it's because I am leveling up, I'm changing, and I am bringing my energy more forward. And so it gets to be reciprocated. I
Right.
love that. And I love synchronicities. Like, I love when it's just so mind-boggling and you're like, no, there's no denying that this greater intelligence is working, but when you have used control as your safety,
Mhm.
whoo, what a journey.
Yeah. Been there. And we can use control in all kinds of ways. Okay, so you started to mention SoulDisco and how it like started a little bit. And now I was super lucky enough to be able to experience your SoulDisco last night, which was absolutely incredible. And
Mm.
you had mentioned that you really created this with the intention of utilizing cannabis. Now, I used my crystal infused water
Amen.
yesterday because
Perfect.
why not? I did think about using cacao or I have flower essences, but it was late and I was like, I want to make sure I go to bed. So I didn't
Hmm.
want like other things. But I guess this is like a two-part question. One, are you really calling people in with the intention of using cannabis? And then, you're like totally cool with people coming in if they resonate with your vibe, but don't want to use it. And where how did this get created after the first attempt kind of didn't go how you planned?
Great. You might have to remind me the second part later, but
Yeah.
what was the first part? I just forgot.
So basically if someone comes to you because you're with the intention of
Yep.
cannabis and they're like, I don't really want to use cannabis, are you more intentional about the tool of cannabis pairing with this or about your frequency and vibration attracting people?
And this is something I'm still actively working on, getting clear on this because I don't want to deny anyone the opportunity to do the soul disco because I do believe that it's powerful no matter what your state of consciousness is. At the same time, I do believe that there are very specific people and I have met them in my real life. And that's how I kept getting affirmed that me being vocal about cannabis and my work with it and using it consciously really was making a difference to people. It was opening people's eyes. It was helping people feel less shame. So I do believe that that is probably my ideal client. But I believe Soul Disco doesn't have to have it. So I'm still working on it. I think when I do them in
Yeah.
person, like I have a couple dates at some dispensaries, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
Obviously the expectation is that they can totally imbibe and then we can go for it. But I think TBD on that.
Yeah,
TBD
that's
on that.
okay. That's okay. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. And then your second question was like kind of how
So
well,
you started out talking about how the first one went,
mhm,
but obviously we have had more since then. So
mhm.
what was the transition from, okay, I rushed this forward way too quickly to where it's at now?
What really helped me was doing some one-on-ones,
Mm.
some free one-on-ones so I could get some practice. I could start to like understand what this entity was. I learned a lot. And honestly, like talk about business being a spiritual journey. What's been really potent for me these past couple months, I would say, is rewriting how I work. I got through school as a straight A student, but as a super procrastinator, like to my detriment. And not to mention, trigger warning for eating disorders, I was binging and purging every day. So instead of doing my schoolwork, that's what I was doing. And even into college, I very distinctly remember, like, it's the day before papers due. I haven't even started it. I'm binging and purging until midnight. Then I'm trying to write a paper. Like, that was my lived experience with work. And so rewriting that has been a journey. And there's so much that I still want to infuse into this project. And I'm letting it unfold. And I'm not beating myself up about, like, oh, I didn't spend as much time like getting familiar with this or incorporating this, because every one I've done, I am learning more information. But that's been the biggest thing is how do I build something without the energy of pressure? Because that's really what it was. And it's like, I don't know how to function unless I have the pressure. I don't know how to get anything done unless it feels like I'm on a deadline, you know? So that's really been just such a big part of the past couple months specifically. And I think, yeah,
Relatable, by the way.
good. Phew. Yeah, it's what a journey.
You're not the only one. Not the only one at all.
Oh, and I'm like, can I just be done with this? But I mean, just surrendering to the pace that life has for me. And what's really been helpful for me is just understanding that I am here to live this experience so viscerally and so kind of extremely so that I can relate and empathize with my clients in the future.
Yeah. So how did the SoulDisco come to you? Because from what I understand, it is your creation, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome.
And we're still learning how to have authority and feeling, I want to say, worthy of claiming anything, you know? But I think it was those one-on-ones where I knew I wanted to pair conscious cannabis with breathing and movement. I just knew that's what it was. I actually did an event at a dispensary last summer. So this is before I even did the one-on-ones. But again, I did that whole thing out of pressure. I burnt out so hard at the end of it that I was like, I never want to do this again. I never want to do it again. And that's kind of been like a cycle that, you know, every time it's a little bit less. But I received great feedback. I knew it was something, but it was me becoming the person who could to be a, oh, there's a great word that a teacher of mine uses, but like to be a, I'm going to use the word steward. It's not the right word that I'm looking for, but like to be the person who carries out this entity that universe wants on the earth. I had to do a lot of identity work. And that is still what I'm working on, is like, can I be the person who claims this, who can be the leader in a room, who can be a facilitator? Like, I never thought I was going to do that before. I taught fitness a lot, but that's a little different when you're holding someone's like soul and their like sensitivity. There's a maturity that you have to have. But I think it was just like play and exploration. I love making playlists. Like I said, I've been a fitness instructor my whole life. So creating a felt experience through music is really impactful to me. And then, as we know, breath work is so powerful for helping you get in the present and or clear. So I think there's a lot of ways that this SoulDisco can continue to evolve. And the very first one I ever created, which was last summer, and I just created it for myself, but you can now buy it on my store because why not? But it was called Rage Alchemy because I needed it at the time. So it was like, you know, a little bit of breathing and then like stomping around my room and giving myself permission to like hit some pillows, to like a really, you know, a visceral song that allowed me to channel those emotions that I don't usually have any way to express. That's really, it's this opportunity to give people space to express things that maybe they don't feel like they have in their real life.
Perfect. You answered my next question. Who is this for?
Great. Yeah.
You just heard it telepathically before I had to say it. Yeah, I mean, I really loved like it was such a feminine flow. Like I really loved that it felt it like you even said it, I think at one point, like a choose your own adventure type of thing where
Hmm.
yes, you were guiding, but it was kind of like what did you need in that moment? And so it did really feel like a permission slip to just be in your own energy, whatever that was for you in that moment. And that was just a really great feminine container to really experience.
Thank you. Yeah, and that is really the point of the Soul Disco is like my spiritual journey. I realized on the same mushroom retreat where I was gifted a free laptop, I realized, oh, I've been treating my spiritual journey from the masculine. I'm like, there's somewhere to get, and there's more of me to fix, and I gotta figure out this block so that I can be whoever. And the Soul Disco is my antidote to that because it's
Mhm.
not that someone else has more information than me. It's not that I need another certification. It's not that there's this magic something. It's that I have to cultivate peace and presence in my body. And from a place of safety, I then have access to the intuition that people are talking about, to feeling like I know what I desire. Like I stopped dreaming in my eating disorder. Like I did not have hopes and dreams for myself because at that point I was like, well, I can't do any of the things I ever wanted to do as a child if I'm going to live like this my whole life, which is really how I felt until I entered treatment. So reigniting my imagination, reigniting dreaming has all been a journey. And when I started to understand, oh, the spiritual journey doesn't happen in the mind. Actually, we need to drop back into the body. But again, that's the feminine. Like, I didn't know that. I really wasn't aware that it was so important for me to feel my own sensations, feel my own feelings. So I hope that the Soul Disco gives people an opportunity to really listen to themselves. And even with breath work, I was doing like the Open app. I don't know if you use that. I love it. But people would tell, like, they'll have you on a breath hold and then, oh, but my body actually wants to hold longer, but you're telling me to let go. So then I abandon myself to follow the instructor. And that's really what sparked this was like, I don't want people to follow me. I want them to trust their body and maybe for the first time ever, like actually don't do what the teacher says. Like to be a rebel, come on. And that's what I mean, I'm entering this whole rebellion archetype because I never had that before. And so I've got to integrate it and I want other people to integrate it and follow their body, follow their heart.
That rebel archetype is so important because I have that too. But for you to actually like bring that out and tell people to experience it, like invite them into that is super potent, super healing.
Thanks.
All right. So I'm just so grateful that we have been able to have this conversation. And for all of the listeners here, I just really hope that you were able to receive and experience Hannah's medicine and just understand like where, because okay, here's the real reason like I wanted to bring this forward was to get another spectrum of cannabis and of someone that is now saying like, hey, I really feel present in my body when that wasn't always the case. So if this is really resonating with you, I
Mm,
really hope that you turn the audio up a little bit louder and just really feel this in your body because Hannah is someone that you're saying like that was never something that you were able to feel and like to really be in your body to now leading others to do that
mm.
is so powerful. So it's absolutely possible if you feel like it is not for you. It is.
Yes.
So, with this, I would love to know where people could find you and more about the Soul Disco, where if they're, hearing this and want to participate, how can they do that?
Yes, I'd love to have you there. You can find me on Instagram at Hannah Gray Elrose, and that's kind of where the home is for everything. In my link in bio is my stand store where there's the links to RSVP to the community Soul Disco. We do one a month. It's the first Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then there's also some one-on-one options and some pre-recorded Soul Discos that you can access as well.
Amazing. Now, I'm being called to ask you this. So, is there one message? Is there one statement that you could give the listeners with the intention, with that in mind, where there's probably some skeptics or there's probably some people here that are really resonating with what you're saying? Is there anything that before we end the show that you really want to just end this episode with?
Ooh. Again, I'm going to say trust your timing. Trust your timing. Trust that the right information is falling on your ears at the right time. I think life presents us with what we need if we're paying attention. And so, yeah, if something is bubbling inside of you, check it out. Check me out. See what I'm talking about on the internet. I'm trying to be more vocal. I'm trying to answer some questions. So, yeah, there's no coincidence that you're listening to this right now.
So true. So true. Well, thank you so much for being here, for your time, for your presence, for your energy, and for sharing your medicine on this podcast episode today. I am so, so grateful to have you. And I'm just elated with how this episode went. And I'm hoping the listeners feel the exact same, but I really feel like they are, because you brought such a beautiful awareness and spectrum to this piece that a lot of people are not talking about, or if they are, it's not this conscious. So thank you for being the person that opens up this can of worms that everyone's trying to close shut.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thank you so, so much for having me.
All right. Thank you all so much. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you so much for listening. I am incredibly grateful for your time and presence that you shared with me today. If you love this episode, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share with a friend so we can continue to expand the light codes with our soul fam. If you're looking to transform your life from the inside out with multidimensional healing, see the show notes for more details on ways to work with me. See you next week for another episode of the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast.